I actually used to play Empire with unit sizes times 4 and then put them to 150
Oh
man
my
units.
god.
So you would get 600 man units.
That's basically a 1-to-1 scale battalion.
I got
Jeff,
like
you are
25
adding...
FPS on regular speed.
I think Shogun actually can handle it pretty well, 400. But the problem with the frame rates, I had it also, is because of the high poly count of the generals. But I really lowered it, and I don't have really frame drops that much. I can full stack, no problem.
Hopefully, I'll
full
be able
stack's
to
also
play.
fine for me. It's when I get to like 60 or even 80 unit battles that I start to get problems.
Yeah, but that's pretty normal.
To be
Yeah,
honest, that sounds more like a you problem rather than a game problem.
Well, no, it
yeah.
basically proved that the mod as it is now can handle the maximum battle size you'll ever experience, as long as you
True.
don't use those generals that were added to France, because they'll crash the game.
So, if we played a battle, what units are we allowed to use? Because I don't want like someone using tier 1, and then all of a sudden the enemy pulls up a tier 2 Armstrong cannon.
No, we'll decide what tiers we use before we build an army.
I'm gonna be fair, I would like tier 1.
You don't like tier 1? Okay.
Oh, I want tier 1. I don't want tier 2.
Okay, we're not going to play now, but I'm just because actually the Carlist War will be single player only.
Hmm.
There will be a
multiplayer will be an entire different clusterfuck.
Yeah, the stats has to change because it's just it's this mod is made for the AI, not for multiplayer.
Yeah, so it's a bit imbalanced.
Not just a bit.
I remember when you took all this National Guard, Jeff. I don't know who it was.
No, that was Scramble.
Yeah, that was Scramble still, but
I just remember the battle we played with me and Izzy against each other, and his damn cavalry last standed and murdered basically half my army because for some reason the game doesn't actually have infantry attacking cavalry animations. Or they don't actually, kick in.
I'm just always looking at them and going like, just stab the horse.
Yeah. I am convinced that I don't know if there is animations. I didn't actually look into it, but I know whenever I was watching, a battle, the two units fight, infantry do not actually attack the horses.
Oh, there are animations. There are stabbing animations of the horse.
Yeah, but they don't do it. The animations they use are evade and retreat and dodge and block. But that's it. They never actually attack the horse, which makes me think that there's something wrong with the animation files, that they never implemented it, or perhaps there's something in the code itself that's not doing the sync kills.
And again, at this point in time, the best counter to cavalry is just to use
cavalry,
bug and ball,
or other cavalry.
Just fucking shoot them.
I've annihilated cavalry units with bug and ball, just because they put out so much more fire.
Yeah,
that's much better. Yeah,
it makes sense.
I mean, I remember that Merlin was asking for it, so here you go.
It just felt like something that you should have as just like a small, extra timed ability type thing, like the suppression fire and Scramble.
Yeah, but suppression fire is like more for modern rifles, not really.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, it's just like a.
Yeah, it will transform into suppression fire once we go to rifled muskets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
But,
so it's only going to be really a low tier thing, allowing you to actually get that kill zone going when you need to.
No, yeah, I think Buck and Ball's actually a decent thing, especially for like the militia units and the levies. I think it definitely makes them stand up, to your mid-tier, line infantry, elite infantry units. It does make them, somewhat, effective.
Hello, Sam.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd jump in, just make myself unannounced.
No, I knew you joined, but people were talking, so I couldn't say hi.
Ah, it's all right.
Don't stand on attention on our account.
I'm fucking tired. Oh god.
Sam, you were the one that sent me that message, right? Yeah, okay, now I see it.
Yeah, that was me. I just thought I'd drop something in.
About the Amistad, yeah.
Yeah, fun fact: the UK was the first country to actually start trying to abolish slavery. So I thought, it'd be pretty cool.
Weren't not the French doing it after the French Revolution?
The French were, from what I've read, the French were doing it to a certain extent, but the Royal Navy actually sent about 40% of the fleet to the west coast of Africa, if I believe, to try and cut down on the slave trade. And I think, from what I remember, from what I've read, it was one of the worst postings you could be put on because obviously malaria and disease was rampant, and it just wasn't very nice. But obviously, the UK dedicates a lot of their naval personnel to cut down on slavery.
One of the main
Well-
reasons why slavery was no longer used because it wasn't profitable anymore. That's a fact.
Oh no, I couldn't agree. No, yeah, not profitable at all.
And while the French did abolish the practice within their homeland, the colonies were still more than willing to continue.
Yeah, that's
Of
correct.
course.
No,
That's what
that's correct.
That's because of Napoleon.
I think that was one of the reasons why the rebellion happened in Haiti, if I remember. See, as it carried on happening, and obviously Napoleon's, French army over, and it just ended in essence in a massive clusterfuck.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, well.
So to get back on the mod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a mod to slavery. Nice.
Well, it's actually part of the mod, so in theory. Okay.
It
Yeah,
is
I
part of
know,
it.
man.
It's definitely part of the history, so it shouldn't be ignored.
That's true. That's true.
I think that if obviously the mod is aiming to do, a whole worldwide theatre, I definitely think that this should be a part of it.
Yes, it should.
Especially with it still happening in the USA at this point.
Well, I think there was a mod on Empire Total War that was or having like as a resource slaves.
It's called the VMI mod, if I remember, because I've got Imperial Destroyer on my PC with the VMI, and it adds slaves and diseases and shit into it.
That mod hasn't been updated in years.
I'm using version 6.3, and it's got some good stuff in.
Yeah, but that hasn't been updated in years, as far as I know.
I mean, I was talking to their dev because means some guys which I've told Izzy about. We're doing some stuff, and I asked if I could use their assets, and he went, "Yeah, sure." And
You're
he
talking about
wants.
Imperial Destroyer. I was talking about VMI.
Oh no, yeah, Imperial Destroyer. I was going to say no. Yeah, Imperial Destroyer. No, I was talking to him about it, and I think he suspended development from what I remember, and I think he's on about making a 7 Years War campaign or mod for Napoleon.
Ooh.
Oof.
It sounds like Merlin.
That's competition.
Not really.
Yeah, you do the Northern War, right? The Northern War.
Uh-huh. A far more interesting war.
Wait.
One that didn't
Which
take
one?
like 30 years.
Well, Great Northern War took 20.
Well, it's 10 less.
The Northern War is very interesting.
Hashtag 30 Years War, 1600s in Germany.
This,
What do we call this conflict that lasted for like 30 years? Let's call it the 7 Years War.
it didn't last 30, though.
I mean, it depends on who you ask.
The War of the Austrian Succession was a separate war.
I know, but I'm talking about like the skirmishes in America.
Well, that's technically a different war as well. That was a colonial war
Yeah, the
between
French
England and
Indian War.
France.
It
And it
it,
weren't
it
just
is.
it weren't just skirmishes. There were dude. Honestly, there were massive battles. I mean, the Battle of Carillon. The British deployed like 20,000 men against the French. I mean, the British got absolutely slaughtered at Carillon. I mean, Fort William Henry, the British garrison ran about 5,000 strong against a French army of about 15,000 men. I mean, if you look at Quebec,
It
you know,
was a
British
serious
army.
war, but it was technically a war between colonial nations, not the home nations, which is why when the 7 Years' War broke out proper, you know, it was only then that they declared war on each other because
Yeah,
America
but
was its own little theater. If they wanted to fight amongst themselves, let them do
yeah,
it,
I know. Yeah, they send their colonies off to kill each other. I know,
more or
but
less.
it is the
No, no, no,
thing
I couldn't agree.
ignited is the thing that ignited the entire 7 Years' War.
Oh no! What ignited the 7 Years' War was Frederick the Great.
Yeah, yeah. Also, also that one.
The French Indian War was going on for 2 years before the 7 Years' War started.
I know.
So that is technically, all things considered, that is its own little war. The 7 Years' War just happened to be happening at the exact same time and what turned out to be more important. And the wars just merged together because why wouldn't they?
Because I mean, it probably was a bit more important.
Oh, it was for Silesia.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Funny, 7 years of war, Prussia destroyed, its population diminished and its manpower nearly drained, all for one province. And for
And
status quo antebellum.
I think
But did the Prussians do it though? This is the thing. Did the Prussians do it? They kicked the Austrians' ass.
And the
No, they
French
didn't.
ass.
They kicked their asses in separate battles, but over the course of the war, they were losing.
Yeah, they were actually losing over long term because they were losing too many troops, but
It's
they were still kicking some ass.
it's similar to Sweden in the Great Northern War. They had 9 years of success because they had the better trained army, the better tactics, and the better leadership. But the problem with that army and that system and the way that they were trained,
too small.
too small, and it didn't have the stamina to keep going. They needed a short, sharp, quick victory, and then the end of the war. That's what they were geared towards. But their king refused to make peace unless it was on his terms.
That's why it was. That's why they were so offensive with the Carolingians
Yeah,
fighting.
that's why they were constantly on the attack. And after it took them 6 years to subdue Poland, and then in 1709 they lost to the Russians, and from that point on they were always going to lose. They could not afford to lose one battle, but they did,
Oh
and then
no,
they lost
I
several
couldn't
battles
agree.
after that. But the 7 Years' War, Prussia had a lot more resources, because Germany is a very populous place and Sweden isn't. But even at that, they were pushed to the very brink of destruction. It was
Yeah,
literally through two miracles that they managed to hold off as long as they did.
Yeah,
In
Cat,
fact, the,
Catherine
yeah,
died.
the fact that they lasted and at the end of the war it was status quo antebellum, that's a victory. No matter what way you slice it, that is a victory for Prussia in that war. Surrounded with four enemies, probably more, but four at the minimum, on all sides,
So
and
who
they
do you?
get away with,
Uh-huh.
status quo.
So who do you think maybe could win, Napoleon or Frederick the Great?
On who would win, or
If they
who's the
had
better?
equal resources or historical.
Let's say everything equal.
Napoleon.
I'd say Napoleon.
Really? Oh, okay.
no,
As
I would
much as
say
I hate the
Frederick the Great.
French, I'd
I
say
would say
Napoleon.
Frederick the Great.
The thing is, Frederick wasn't a great commander. He was very good at taking his opponents by surprise, and he was very decent in a tactical sense, but he had nothing on Napoleon. Napoleon was a tactical and strategic genius.
Napoleon's a fun piece of shit.
Oh yes, he's definitely that as well, but he was a tactical and strategic genius. Frederick
He's a
I disagree.
psychic
I
fucking
Frederick was good
maniac.
on Frederick was good on the strategic sense. On the tactical sense, he lost just as many battles as he won. Napoleon lost
I
maybe two or three.
I'd agree. Napoleon initially was a good commander because he organised his armies instead of the old system into the core system, which made obviously his armies to be more independent and more flexible. Other than that, I don't particularly think that he was a brilliant commander. I mean, after winning a few battles, he managed to subjugate and secure the alliance of countries. For example, Bavaria, Saxony, Prussia. When he invaded Russia, in 1809. He had the majority of his army were German.
Yeah, but
In German and Austrian, and he wasn't a strategic genius. He just managed to basically scare after winning, few battles, scaremonger a lot of the European countries into joining
oh,
him.
yes, that came as a consequence of him winning. Because his army, he destroyed armies in his path, and of course, no one else has the strength to go up against him. So, what are you going to do? You're going to cower in front of him.
But if you look at Borodino, he lost over 55% of his entire army at Borodino. I mean, it was, to be honest, obviously the Russians just secured their army into the doubts. I mean, it's not particularly a hard fight to win. Just bombard those positions with artillery and storm it with infantry. Napoleon just kept storming it with infantry and lost, unnecessary casualties. He wasn't a genius. He just had the numbers behind him.
No, a lot of the time, Borodino was a different sort of battle. That was just a meat grinder of a battle. Even no one could really make great tactical moves with a meat grinder. So, but it wasn't him at his best. Him at his best was Austerlitz, and I think Jena was a very good one.
Austerlitz was genius, and Marengo was also very
Also, the entire campaign against Russia, I don't know why he would do that, but he did.
He thought he could win.
You can't win.
No, he thought he could because he thought Russia fought basically on the same level as every other European country. But the fact Russia has tons of land to retreat into,
They
and
literally
down.
Country instead of giving it to you, you'll never win.
Exactly, they're willing to sacrifice land for victory. So
don't give
very
a
similar, very similar thing that happened in World War II. Hitler, the Reich thought, we can take. Yeah, exactly the same thing, and all Stalin did. Okay, we'll just pull back and we'll just pull the Siberian reserves in.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't Stalin who made that decision to pull back.
Stalin is not a
It's
good
not
commander.
that he really had a decision to pull back, rather than that it just happened.
I don't think
it's
he
more
had
that
a
it just
decision.
happened, and after he stopped meddling with it, telling his generals what to do, the Russian army started doing well. And then at the same time,
it's not
Hitler
so much.
started.
It's not so much that, but at the time, also his most experienced general actually arrived at the front, being Zhukov.
Yeah.
Which was luckily not purged because he was in Siberia.
True, but I think Timoshenko was one of the other really experienced generals, but they were too few and far between at the time.
Well, yeah, that's basically what you get if you slaughter your entire experienced officer corps.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
But back to Napoleon, because that was a
that was a bit of a side topic.
But no, he went into Russia because he thought he could win, but the Russians proved him wrong, and they made him suffer for it.
I mean, if he would have been that good of a commander, he would have recognized the powerhouse that is Russia. Because every single country in Europe knew that Russia was a powerhouse and that you could not just invade it like that.
The thing is, you're forgetting that he had nothing but 10 years of nothing but success.
Yeah, he got overdosed on fucking success. You can't do that.
He's more than convinced that was, he could take Russia. All he needed was a big army to do it.
Well, he was daydreaming, dumbass.
Oh yeah.
At that point, you'd also think.
Merlin, I'm not calling you dumbass. I'm calling Napoleon dumbass, just for the record.
At that point, he would also believe that the Russian campaign would be modeled after any other campaign he had fought, and that was take the capital and win.
Yeah, that's not it.
But I think
Moscow wasn't a capital, though.
No, it was St. Petersburg.
It was St. Petersburg, but Moscow was the symbolic heart of the country. So.
Thinking that just taking like the major cities of Russia would end it, that it doesn't do that. The Russians just come back with greater numbers and just invade, they will literally just throw themselves at your line just to take back Moscow. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They did the
It's more
same with
more
Germany.
more quantity over quality.
Yeah, but but even so, if you ignore the fact that Napoleon was just drunk on the power that he gained after 10 years of success, he was the better general between Frederick and himself.
You can be a better general, but if the enemy has superior numbers and positioning, it doesn't matter.
Well, the thing is, Napoleon proved in his campaign in France, whenever the Allies invaded, that with a smaller army he could defeat bigger armies.
Yeah, but that's something else. That's a small engagement. We're talking about a campaign in
No,
Russia.
he went into several decently sized battles and came out on top with few casualties.
But I'm
He
talking about
could.
actual campaigns, like long marches across frozen land. You can't just.
Yeah,
It's very different.
But the one thing you're also not taking into consideration is that France had been at war for at least up until, let's say, we go up to the Leipzig campaign.
Yeah, exactly. That's
In
also why it's a
1813.
bad decision.
It was at war. They were technically at war for nearly 13 years by that point. The cream of the crop of the army was gone after Russia. So he was
Exactly. I couldn't agree
relying
more.
on
The majority of the
cream.
French army there were conscripts. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
So he was still extremely good as a tactical and strategic commander. The problem is his army just wasn't what it was, 10 years beforehand. He'd been fighting for too long, and his opponents learned from his example. I'm pretty sure it was Napoleon who said that I'm pretty sure it's Napoleon, but I'm pretty sure someone famous said that you go to war, but you don't stay at war long enough for your opponents to learn. And he taught them everything because he just kept
ground
going
them
into
way
war.
too much military XP.
Oh no, exactly. The core system, the majority of European armies adopted the exact same army composition as the French.
But then again, the French were always the country that other countries modeled their armies after, because let's face it, they generally had all the innovations.
Up until around World War II, when the US started to take great inspiration from Germany.
Honestly, I think after 1870, people started paying more attention to what Prussia was doing rather than anyone else, because it was, Prussia had the idea were the ones using artillery to its maximum effect in the Franco-Prussian War, and using small
railway systems.
The railway systems, the use of breech loaders. What else? I think they were tinkering with the smaller teams going around instead of trying to do more skirmish tactics, because they had the rifles for that. Whereas most armies were still tinkering around with the line infantry.
I agree with that. I disagree.
By the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War, the French had better rifles.
Yes, but
as they had adopted smokeless cartridges.
Yes, but the Dryce needle gun was still just as good.
Anyway, I'm gonna have to
outdated,
go.
but still just as good because it had the same rate of fire.
I'm gonna have to go to sleep. Jeff, I do want to help you with a video sometime.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to have to start reeling these guys in to actually start talking about the mod, because that's what people actually want to hear.
I mean, it's not.
Instead of us just going on and going on about who was the better general, causing a shitstorm in the comment section.
That would actually be quite funny.
Don't blame me if Izzy brings up a topic that everyone has something has a word to say about. So blame
just
him.
Imagine the comments being like, "Nah, Napoleon was better than me." No, I'm gonna have to go anyway. See y'all later. Hopefully, maybe.
See you, man. Have a good one.
Yeah,
get some
kit. Too, Sam. First time I meet you. Goodbye.
Look
like a good fella.
Yeah, apologies for saying Tavar. That's a Yorkshire thing. It's a UK thing.
That's all right. I know.
Okay, so to draw it back a bit into the mod, Izzy, start explaining what the hell you did to the AI to actually make it do line battles.
Actually, test it all.
Well, try to explain in such a way that you don't put the audience to sleep.
He tinkered with numbers.
No, I dreamt about it. I woke up and they were playing or fighting a line. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, very unbelievable, especially for the Shogun 2 AI.
No, I mean, I just want your feedback, guys. I mean, you have tested it. I mean, Merlin maybe because he had so much time, but I mean, what do you think about how the AI is doing?
I think it's doing very well right now. Like it
No,
still
I
goes
agree.
completely, it still goes completely smooth brain the moment you start out flanking it, but that's just the Shogun AI. You can't really get around that one.
No, it's very
Ba-dunks.
linear. It's no, in my opinion, it's very it's realistic again. Obviously, once you turn in those flanks, the AI doesn't really know what to do. But if you're going up in frontal assaults and doing your box standard stuff, it's very much realistic. It's very good. I think that it's very good for the Shogun engine.
I think, I mean, personally, I had to make a choice, and the choice was or to fight them all linear, or to fight them as before, that they all blow up and that the cavalry goes around the flanks and the skirmishers. But then you have the situation that you will never have linear battles. So that's why I just made, that's the problem with the AI, because, the AI is pretty stupid. So I had to make them all
Only
linear.
pretty.
So I had to make them all linear. So then the entire units actually use linear tactics, included the cavalry. So the cavalry stays, as I said, until there's no more ammo, and then they charge, or when you attack them by the rear or the flank, then they start blobbing up a bit.
Like
I do
main,
believe that obviously in this period, for most Europe and the same for like the Spanish armies and things like this, they never typically form square. They typically, blob together into like groups, like a massive square, but it wasn't, with a hollow. It was more, like a, I don't know how to explain it, more of like a filled-in square type of thing. And I believe that Napoleon and Empire have that in their system.
The battalion mass, you mean?
No, no. Oh god, just trying to think what the unit's called in Empire.
The pike
So
square?
yeah, so there's a pike square in the Empire that's been also transferred over into Napoleon. Don't know how, but obviously Napoleon uses the actual same game system as Empire. It's just an updated version.
so you mean
So
that they use stereo tactics instead of just hollow squares?
yes. Compared to the British Army, from what I can recall, was one of the only European armies to adopt the hollow square idea. But most European armies just adopted, the fact, just basically just clump together, fix your bayonets, and just hope for the best.
No, most armies were using the hollow square. It was the Austrians that used what they call the battalion mass or divisional mass, because they were
yeah.
using the what do you call it, raw. Basically, it was just an easy way to train new troops, raw troops. Just get yourself into a massive clump of men and just defend yourself against cavalry. It wasn't good against artillery, but it was a quick and easy way to train up new troops to form a square without the whole complicated
Mm-hmm.
nonsense of forming companies into a hollow square.
Mm-hmm.
But most armies would have used the hollow square. If they had a choice, because it was probably, I don't know if it was better or if it was just more convenient.
It was
for
just
some
as
reason.
effective in scaring off cavalry with less training on the horse's side, and of course less susceptible to artillery fire.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because two lines versus, or 2 to 3 lines of men versus a massive a blob of men sitting there. Artillery would have a field day with a battalion mass, whereas with the hollow square, it would be bad, but not as bad. Let's face it, if you use the typical thing of you bringing up artillery to shoot at the square while cavalry just sitting there, a battalion mass would be destroyed in minutes.
But I believe, obviously, with the stuff going on in Spain, I think, obviously, in Spain, in the midst of massive revolutions, I don't think that the Spanish army would have had time, to train men to form into squares. I think that typically they would have used the battalion mass system, just for necessity, the fact, quick recruitment and all that stuff.
Honestly, I would say they probably never would have bothered, because they would have needed the men on the field as quick as possible, training them to just form into a blob in the field. Probably not worth their time.
No, at that point, you just want to get the guns in their hands and them in the field as fast as you can. And cavalry wasn't really that present during the time, just because of budget constraints on all participants.
Yeah, it would have been hard to find horses in Spain, and that's crumbling around itself. Because both sides are, depending on how many parts of it are in rebellion. Because I don't know how bad it was in Spain during the first.
It was really bad.
But everyone would have been out to get horses. I mean everyone. So there would have been a horse shortage.
Mm-hmm.
Same with a gun shortage. If there's a horse shortage and gun shortage, you're not going to bother with training your men to use fancy tactics and maneuvers like forming in a square. Even if
in special rifles, I think that is, we've got an abundance of these old rifles. Yes, they're maybe 20 years old, but we don't really care. Just use these.
If they put lead down range, they're good.
Put it this way: a lot of the guns that were used in the Napoleonic Wars were at least 20 or 30 years old.
Oh yes, no, the British Army used the freaking Brown Bess musket up until the 1840s, I believe. And that was used since the 1750s. I mean, pretty box standard for the British Army.
Yeah.
No. In the 1850s, the British Army adopted the Enfield Tower musket. I mean, I've got one in my wardrobe. So obviously that was rifled. So I think up until then the British Army adopted that. After that, they adopted the Schneider throughout the 1860s, and then in 1868, the British Army adopted the Martini Henry, but from some sources, certain regiments.
When it comes to the Martini Henry, you have to give it a higher misfire chance.
Of which one? Sorry,
the Martini Henry. You have to give it a massive misfire chance.
Why is that?
So they can blame that on then getting overwhelmed by Zulus.
Exactly.
No, you're wrong there. So I've been to a Sandalwana and done metal detecting. So this was a few years ago, before the whole COVID thing happened. Sadly, I couldn't bring a lot back with me because of stupid, flight restraints and all this stuff.
You can't really bring all the ammunition back.
Well, obviously, for the entire thing of the ammunition shortage, that's wrong. Because I found screws and bits of boxes on the actual timing line. The British Army were able to get their ammunition out there. The stuff to do with the rifles overheating, that actually didn't happen. The Martini Henry is a pretty efficient rifle. It could fire, a lot of rounds off, and typically it wouldn't really overheat. I mean, to overheat, the British would have been having to fire probably, extremely fast, but not to the rate that they were firing at Sandalwana. So obviously, the British, their firing tactics, which I've looked at, and from being in the military and stuff I've read, the tactics you used it wasn't fire at will, or even the ranked fire system. They would typically spread out into open order and open up, by command, probably one round every 10 seconds. Take aim, fire, then repeat, obviously, both ranks. So you can probably say every man's firing, maybe 20 seconds, roughly. So there wasn't really a misfire chance. The Martini was a very efficient rifle.
I've also heard it be blamed on them not being able to get the ammunition out of the boxes, which is also like completely stupid.
No, yeah, no.
A lot of myths have been floated around, mainly just by the British officers that ordered the assault to save face.
No, they made that thing because the British Army didn't like the fact that they'd been beaten by a band of Zulus, overrunning a British force of nearly 3,000 strong. No, from the stuff I found, the British basically smashed the boxes open with the butts of their rifles. There was no issue like they couldn't unscrew them. No, from the things I've seen, the boxes were smashed. They were able to pull the rounds out of the boxes by typically getting the butt of the rifle and smashing the boxes.
Put it this way: if a soldier wants his ammo, he will get it.
Oh, exactly. But I think I
think I was watching a documentary myself. That was basically saying the same thing you did. That they just deployed wrong and they deployed too far out from their camp instead of making a tighter perimeter and got overwhelmed very quickly.
The tactics were fine what the British used initially. It was the lack of ammunition for the cavalry. So in the actual front line, the British deployed the majority of their companies. So the British were able to restore the Zulu advance. I mean, if you've heard things about the Zulus, in the Zulu, the chest of the buffalo, the main Zulus attacking, they couldn't push forward. The fire was that bad. They had to take cover, basically hit the dirt. The fire was that bad. The cavalry on the flank, the Durnford, and obviously a lot of the Natal Carbineers, Sikali, Natal Native Horse, all that stuff. Obviously, a cavalryman isn't going to be carrying much ammunition, as an infantryman, and obviously they were typically on patrol, they weren't ready for the fight, and obviously they were using the Martin Henry carbine, and I think it was the not the Schneid. I forgot what it was called. I think it was the Sharps. I think they were using an element of the Sharps carbine, but also the for like the Natal Native Horse. So obviously there'll be lots of different types of ammo needed and all that stuff. So when the cavalry fell back and got into a good position, they were able to stall the Zulus. But once they started running out of ammo, they had to fall back. But by that time, when they fell back, the Zulus were able to come up on them and get into the camp and over on the British position. It wasn't the fact that they were spread out; it was the fact that there was a lack of ammunition for the cavalry. That's my personal opinion.
We went off on another big tangent here.
Of course we did.
A bit of a tangent.
Because why wouldn't we?
Yeah. But I think one thing that's got to be elemented, in late game for the stuff, at least for the British Army, they didn't fight in big lines. And
that's the problem.
Obviously,
that's the problem with the game.
That is going to be something we're going to have to figure out how to solve in the upcoming years that we're working on this.
The only way I know how to force the game to use armies in skirmish order is to make sure that they're all skirmishers and they're deployed as skirmishers. There's no other way to do it in this game.
So obviously Joe's a completely different game. For what I've done with the hardcore stuff for Zulu, if you didn't know, I'm the guy who's been doing that shit on mod PB. So obviously, when I've looked into what they did with the original mod and the stuff they did for the AI, they managed, obviously, I don't know, this is one of the big issues, managed to get it to loop down the flanks, to be more of a flanking thing. Obviously, that's a doable thing, the AI. But for the other stuff, for the British, I don't know what they've done. I'm going to have a look into the the scripts and things like this, but they made him not as much as a box standard line anymore. They managed to separate it out and let units act more independently. It's more independent than the stuff.
Yeah.
Well, if we can, whatever guy made that on board to figure out our stuff, that would be great.
Oh,
honestly, I've emailed that guy. I've met that guy on Total War Center, saying, "Hey, dude, is it okay, if I can use stuff?" I don't know. I've got permission. I asked this other guy who uploaded the mod on ModDB, the original mod, and say, "Hey, is it okay?" He went, "Yeah, it's fine, and you can do it." But the actual guy who made it, he's not around anymore.
Well, you can actually. I already had an idea for the later units, because the way I actually made them all linear is I made them all, or I give them all the same behavior, and that is to behave as line infantry, even the cavalry, except the general, because at least in this game, the general stays mostly behind these lines, so he's not as dumb as the other games. So what you can do for later games is to just make them all behave as skirmishers. That's what you can do.
No, but I think one thing though is for the late game stuff. I feel like the units, typically they wouldn't be carrying flags into battle. Obviously, I know the French and the Prussians did in the Franco-Prussian War, but for the British in particular, then they didn't march in line. The flags were typically left in the camp, and then they marched off, by companies and did all the battles and stuff.
Yeah, but that's colonial war. I mean, for colonial war, I think it's not, because even personally for me, that's what I did with Scramble a bit, is that colonial units will be smaller than, for example, European mainland units, and they maybe will fight more in a, say, in a late linear fashion, you could say.
No, obviously it'd been done a hell of a lot differently. I mean, no, I agree typically. No, I'm sorry, not typically. I agree completely. No, but the British, they adopted a 2 battalion system by 1879. So you would have 1 battalion deployed. So, for example, let's take the 24th. For example, they were deployed to South Africa, and you would have the 2nd battalion deployed back home in the UK. Acting as a reserve battalion, for like replacements and stuff. But obviously, sometimes that 2nd battalion was deployed, as seen, in South Africa during the Zulu War, where both battalions of the 24th were deployed. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's going to be hard. I think it's going to be a hard one to do for the late game. It's going to be a bit different. Not different as such, but it's going to be a bit tricky to do.
Honestly, if we really wanted to do it the way we wanted to do it, we honestly just have to make our own game.
Yeah, that's correct.
I wonder how much do rights cost from CA.
Honestly, at that point, I'd just suggest getting an Unreal license and using that.
How much do you think an Unreal license costs?
No idea, to be honest. Then again, I've seen a good couple of indie games use it in the past few years. So,
is Manor using Unreal?
No, Bannerlord uses the
No, Manor Lord.
Oh, I don't know. I'll actually look it up.
I think it is. How you call that engine? I think it is the Unreal Engine. I'm quite sure of it. Oh, so I think. I mean, I was thinking before, because of course, my modding work will take some time still, but I think in some time, I want to make my own game. But yeah, as an indie developer, it's not easy, because you have to start with something very small. I think that's the best. Any other questions for the mod, actually?
Just mainly on general progress, and yes, Manor uses the Unreal Engine 4.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, the only thing is what I personally think is, like, with Total War in general, the game it's become, for me personally, it's becoming too mainstream. And also, I do not understand why the units never get bigger. They are using a 64-bit engine, so I don't understand why they just keep the 200 units or even lower.
Which causes some problems with certain factions they're trying to portray, especially in Warhammer, where horde factions can't really horde.
I just really don't like Warhammer. I mean, look, I'm happy.
I don't like it either.
I'm happy for the fantasy guys, but my God, I just don't like Warhammer, man.
it's not the fact of the franchise. Like I get the franchise. I think it's interesting. It's new. It's unique. But I don't know. I think they're limiting the player base by focusing on Warhammer. Obviously, I know they're making just one more game, Warhammer. But if they've got the rights to Warhammer, they're going to probably make a Warhammer 40k, which is obviously the Space Marines and all that stuff. And I don't know. I think Total War.
40k
you
is not
can't really do a 40k game in the size of a Total War game.
The thing is, 40k is a different animal in terms of how everyone fights each other. It's not like pitched battles.
It's also a way bigger scope.
Yeah, a game that would probably be better for it would be like Men of War, that sort of game.
I don't know.
I'd be more leaning towards War Game.
I mean, I suppose they could do it. I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert in Warhammer. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know obviously there's stuff like the Imperial Garden and things like that. But I don't know. I suppose they could make the maps, absolutely massive, and say for like an Imperial Guard unit, give the units like 2,000 strong. But I don't
again,
know.
You're only really just fighting in one planetary theater. Well, the setting of Warhammer 40k is basically galaxy-spanning endless war.
The thing is that the only way to do a 40k justice is if you base it on Epic 40k, which is a 6mm version of the game. So
exactly, that's what I'm thinking.
So a 40k version of the game would have to be literally that scale where you can't actually see what the unit models are. They're that small, or the camera just has to zoom out so damn much for you to control them on the map.
That's why I'm proposing more of a war game style system where you have a campaign map, where a lot is more broken down into more modern tactics.
The thing is that the best game that's done 40k justice so far has been the Dawn of War series, minus Dawn of War 3.
Dawn of War 3 doesn't exist.
That's why I said minus Dawn of War 3. I would also put in minus Dawn of War 2 because I just didn't like it, because the first game was awesome. And I didn't like the fact they scaled it down so you had to focus on a single or a group of teams instead of, building an army and winning the battle. And I played a more narrative focus rather than like Dawn of War Dark Crusade, where you're basically commanding an army and taking over a planet.
Typically, though, I hope Total War goes back into their historical direction and starts making historical games. I mean, I think if they're going to do that, it's either going to be Medieval 3. They won't do a remake of Empire. First of all, you're not going to make an Empire game again because you'll get loads of backlash about imperialism and all that stuff, and it just won't be a good PR. I think if you're doing anything,
Empire 2 is the second most requested historical game. And let's face it, medieval, that is far worse in terms of everything. Because you got the medieval period of Christians versus Islam.
Who wanna burn the witch?
Exactly. You want to burn women because they are practicing some strange herbal medicines?
No, it's not only women. A lot of different people were burned.
Oh yeah, but
suspiciously not at Salem.
It has been majority women though.
Yeah.
You think that CA is not going to
I hope.
I mean, if you think that they won't do Empire because of imperialism and everything bad that came with that, medieval period is far worse.
That's so dumb. I mean, if they really go that route, that's really stupid. I'm sorry, man.
Then again, Empire is just better Twitter bait.
But I hope they go into a 1600s thing. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do in there. I mean, you can do
1600s is no better than what do you call it? Than 1700s.
Oh no, I know exactly. But I think it will be different. It will be different to do. I mean, again, I think it would. I mean, obviously, you can attach. I think obviously with the English Civil War, you can do lots of stuff. You can do 30s War. I mean, it would be obviously it was all pike warfare based. You can put your musketeers attached to your pike regiments, and then press a button and they return to your pikes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, it wasn't linear with musket, line musket battles. It was all done with pikes.
Oh no,
I don't know.
getting that way.
Yeah, obviously towards
30
the
years
end, but
war.
with the time,
The 30 Years' War, was basically the start of where muskets started becoming more and more, the main part of the army. Pikes were important for defending them. That was it.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do for the 1600s. I mean, typically as an Englishman, I would very much like to see in the English Civil War. I mean, typically my family fought for the king. I mean, I would love to see some of that stuff, in game. But I don't know if they'll do that. I mean,
I wouldn't, because Cromwell was a dick.
Which part of Ireland are you from, Merlin, anyway? I know you think you've got an Irish accent, haven't you?
From the north.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but which side of the north?
The UK
Aha.
side.
I think from Belfast.
Yeah, no, that's a
Oh, no,
can
I'm not
of
from
worms I don't really think we should get into, to be honest.
No,
Oh,
no, I don't think so. Let's just,
I grew up on a town close to the border, but still.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I just wanted to know because obviously an Irish
Cromwell
accent.
was a dick.
We are from Belgium,
Oh.
so you go to the south, we go to another country also, so the same thing. So, okay, so let's continue about the mod, I guess.
No.
Tangent 3.0.
Yeah, mod.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, linear. So what I did with, is that what you wanted? Because I actually didn't really respond on how I used linear tactics, right?
It's more about how you did it, the challenges you faced, and then of course what's going to be done soon, what we're still planning to do, what we want to have in it before some form of public release.
I will take my time this year, that I'm sure of it, that I can tell everyone already. I'm not going to rush. This mod, I really want it to be done well. I want it.
I doubt anyone wants you to rush it. I doubt really anyone wants another half-baked Shogun 2 mod that takes 5 years of development and then just goes nowhere.
Well, people were complaining for Scramble already, but people sometimes have to understand that Scramble normally wasn't supposed to have a campaign.
Yeah.
So you always have like those annoying people complaining. So
yeah. Honestly, the fact Scramble hasn't campaign just was sheer freaking luck. Just finding that one stupid bug.
It was a good test. I think, obviously, I haven't been developing any of this stuff, but I think that it gives people an insight scramble into what's to come with this mod series.
oh yeah, I can tell you that Carlist Wars will be a total different gaming experience. It will be more for people that are, how can I say it?
It's way more campaign map focused, as everything takes just a lot longer.
The thing is, the way Izzy was saying that, I was like, you should probably be careful with making promises like that. Because there's plenty of studios that have said exactly the same thing and they crashed.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to take my time this year. I want to make it a good mod. I just don't want to make a crappy mod. For me, Scramble of the Far East, I will be very honest, I think it's a crappy mod. I mean, it's not being, it was actually for multiplayer only, that's it. But people were like going crazy, and that's like, I was like, okay.
The campaign implementation is very, very basic.
Yeah, but that's the point. I didn't want to make a very in-depth campaign. It wasn't really my purpose to have, and that's why I said that one update more, and then I'll release the resource files, and then people do whatever they wish with it. So for me, personally, the Carlist Wars is going to be more in depth, especially as you said, Jeff, more campaign focused. It means
better optimized.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Better animation, better optimized, lower polygon units, lower texture maps. I mean, thanks to Merlin that actually made some unit parts that I could use. So it was perfect.
Like
So,
honestly,
Izzy, if you don't, sorry, go ahead. I'll let you go.
like honestly, for my testing, even playing on easy, it took me about 6 years to get a 20 stack 20 units army together. Playing as the UK.
Yeah, but that's the point. Have you seen Lord John's his playthrough with Scramble? Have you seen it?
I've seen brief parts of it. I haven't really had the time to watch all of it.
Yeah, I mean, what happens, and that's what I do not really like, is that in the end you just blitzkrieg the entire campaign map. You conquer all of China, I mean Manchuria and Korea. You get a ridiculous amount of money, and the game is like very easy.
And that's definitely the struggle I've had so far, is with money, right up until the point I can't actually remember the town name, so I'm just going to load into the campaign to see what it was again. But there is one town you can capture from the first faction you fight is the British, that has iron as a resource, which exports for a stupid amount.
Yeah, I mean, I want the main focus on trade. I mean, of course, I will increase a bit the taxation system of city, but as I've seen really with
Honestly, the taxation system currently is good, because I've already got like 4 cities at least that are 2,000 plus.
Okay, that's perfect. I just want the main focus on trade. I don't want the focus to be on taxation. Lord John's playthrough really showed me like you actually don't need trade. I mean, trade gives you an extra ridiculous amount of money, but you actually don't need trade. And in those times, trade was really essential.
Like iron is going for 78 gold per unit.
Yeah, I mean, and you even have gold and silver that has
Silver
been added
105, gold 133.
as most, and also spices. And for the moment, we have 14 resources. I will even add more when I expand the campaign map, so that the focus will be on trading. So when your ports get blocked or something, or your trade route gets
It's actually a real strategy to cripple a nation.
yeah, that's the point. So, and as you also see, I've reintroduced the food mechanic also that you have to take care of.
It's on a per region level now, and honestly, I haven't really run into problems with not having enough food.
Well, because I'm going to add a mechanic by a script that every unit is going to, if you recruit the unit, they will use food. So
you can't just stack units in a province.
exactly, they will use food.
So I think what a lot of people will probably want to know is what new unit models are you thinking about implementing for the Spanish units?
I'm actually busy with the Portuguese, so I already have all the infantry units for the Portuguese because they are pretty easy to do. Because I can split them between the Miguelists and the other constitutionalists.
And the
To make
Kingdom of Portugal.
Yeah, correct. So after I will make the Spanish, the Spanish constitutionalists against, and then I think the last one will be the Carlist. I mean, it will be smaller in scale but more tactical.
Mm-hmm. So, again, what uniforms are you thinking about doing then, like colours wise? I mean, are they going to be more flamboyant? Are they more?
Well, it's very Napoleonic. It's just 15 years after. The 1830s was still
Mm-hmm.
very Napoleonic. So, the Carlists will have their famous hat that they were using, the beret, I think it was. So, especially in the north, they were using it in the Basque counties. So, there will be different ones. I'm not going to start with a huge amount of units because it takes a huge amount of time. I think the amount I have now for the British and French are pretty good starters to start with. But what I'm now, as I said, I will take my time. I'm adding, put some new scripts in it. Also, I'm going to probably change automatically the summer to winter dress. So, you know, so then you don't have to think about what to recruit because probably the AI cannot handle it. So maybe it's easier to just make a script that they change automatically per season.
No, I guess right now my testing campaign, I got my army split into 5 unit stacks, and one of them is just full winter dress, so I can still campaign during the winter.
Yeah, well, I'm going to change that because uh, even in winter dress, you will still have kind of winter attrition, but just very minor. Of course, in summer, it will. If you have summer dress in winter, then it will be much. I mean, major. You can all script it. I already have the script IDs in my mind, so I just have to test it a couple of times.
I think for obviously, obviously, I know it's gonna be a long. I know you're taking your time, and obviously, it's gonna be like this Carlist War stuff. But obviously, during the Carlist stuff, you would probably have a lot of troops, which wouldn't have uniforms. A lot of irregular troops, just an ordinary civilian
Those have
clothing.
mostly been implemented from, well, mainly fighting the rebellion parts of Spain, as they only now really start to implement militia units against me. Before that, it was all just armed citizenry.
Yeah, I mean they will have their own units. It will be probably for the Spanish. It will be maybe a unit per province. That were famous in that area. Um, so then you will see more professional units, of course.
But that's a bit more down the line for first getting all countries to have decent units.
Yeah, correct. So I finished the infantry of the Portuguese and then the cavalry, and then the Spanish, then the other one, and then I have a real, you say, working campaign, and then I'm going to focus back on the campaign part. Add the scripts for when you recruit units, you waste food, uh, and I think the unit cap is perfect. It just stops you off like doing.
I honestly have not run into the unit cap so far. Trying to play as the UK, of course, but even other factions don't have armies that would exceed their unit caps.
Yeah, I think it's a good
So
system.
even the AI is abiding by it.
Has to, yeah.
Like France has like 2 or 3 big armies in its territory, and that's it.
That makes sense. I mean, it's really strange to have like full stack troops like coming from nowhere the whole time.
I think one big issue. I mean this is going to probably be extremely tedious. Is making that many custom battle maps, for the for Spain.
It's
obviously
something that will be added post-launch, I'd
mind you,
assume.
mind you though, I suppose what you I don't know if it's all hard coded into Empire and Napoleon. You could probably just pull the campaign battle maps out of those games and just port them in. I suppose it's doable. If you knew how to get them out the hard code, I suppose it's doable.
Well, I got a buddy of mine. He actually was. I mean, he's creating custom battle maps on the campaign map. Because it's tile based per tile. So he made also north and south too. So he was testing. I already know how it works actually, but I'm going to focus first on the settlements. So my idea is to have just two versions: a coastal city and an inland city. So then, because the problem is that a lot of the game is a bit hard coded, you cannot add specific cities to an area. I mean, you could, but the problem is that then they will be all the same in the same area, you could say, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, my idea is to have, okay, like a European style inland city with their levels, from level 2 to level, I don't know how much it is, level 6 or something like that. And then a coastal city um, from level 2 to level, I don't know what, with a fort. Like I'm going to use the fort style from Napoleon because I can just easier make them useful for the game.
Oh, so is the siege map then just going to be a fort and that's it, or is it going to be like a town and then a fort within the, within the town?
I don't know if you have you seen the models I made for the campaign map models.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's the style I want to go to, actually. You know, have a fort in the middle with some buildings around it, European ones, of course.
Cool. Good idea.
I'm
And
just looking at the units in the game right now. I'm just looking at the belts and seeing whether or not they're the ones I made, because the texture looks a bit edited. You know, the white cross belt.
sorry, what did you say? Sorry.
Oh, you know the belts that I helped you make a lot less polygon hit. Oh no, I think these are. No, those are the old ones. Oh, never mind. Continue with what you're going on. Yeah.
I think most units are correct. I think.
No, I was looking to see if any of the British and French had any of the models that I helped remake for you, but the British ones seem to be still using the older high polygon count belts, cross belts.
Yeah. Okay, you mean the summer dress, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, mostly they're okay. In polygon count, I mean, the models I've made for the car list wars are pretty low poly. I mean, they could be maybe more lower, but I think they're pretty fine. The ones I changed was especially the pants for the French, I think.
Sorry, I'm just inspecting to see.
No problem. I did because I did change the pants for the French July monarchy to the more lower poly ones, and there's some other stuff I changed also.
Fair enough. No, I didn't mean to derail you. I was just looking at them and.
Plus, I think the frock coats that will be used for Tier 3, they will be the lower poly ones.
Yeah.
So that one I also have already. So, no, but the plan is first to make custom siege maps with different levels. I'm thinking about per culture maybe, but I'm not really sure because I only can add 8 different ones because of the hard code of the game. So then, yeah, it's stupid, I know.
No, I'm just looking at the French July monarchy engineers. They've got gigantic axes.
I also the axes.
Yeah. I mean, those
honestly,
are
that should
huge.
give them a giant melee boost.
just running around with the cleavers up there.
Of course. They are engineers. They need to have access.
I know, but I wasn't expecting it. They're just so big.
Never knew
Only
that.
a shovel.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've only just seen them. Oh,
I
brilliant.
think they look cool.
Oh, they do. They do.
So after the custom, just two like I don't know, maybe southern European style and then northern European style cities, and then custom battle maps. But those are tile based, so for that I just have to make something into the game itself. And for the rest, I'm going to import the ships from Napoleon Total War as I did with Scramble. So and make them like the way Napoleonic style ships of the line whatsoever. So that's how the mod is going to be.
No, with that we do actually have a general roadmap we can go off of, as also how people actually know what we've been up to.
Yeah, I know. As I said,
yes, it's been a long time since the last FOTScast.
Yeah, I know. Everyone was busy, so yeah. So
everyone was busy, and there wasn't really that much progress on the car list wars because of Scramble.
Yeah, Scramble I put it aside now.
Yeah, Scrambles is now sidelined to get car list going again.
Yeah, this year I really want to have an alpha ready at least to be playable, because I still have to do North Africa because it's also part of the mod.
Yeah.
So you have
And
like,
for that, we need to actually have some ships in the game, otherwise we can't ferry troops over.
yeah. So my focus first is on Spain to get towards south of France. With all the things I've ready, means custom battle maps, custom siege maps, ships, scripts ready, and at least have tier one, even more. Who knows? Maybe more than tier one units. But that's why I just have like not that crazy amount of units, because it just takes too much time to develop.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
we
why,
can always add the regiments of renown later.
yeah, for example.
Like for example, every time we put out something like a bug fix patch, it's just one extra unit.
Yeah, or sub modders. I don't know
No, of course.
if they want to mod, of course, people.
Um, I'm currently trying to process the nightmare that's bash scripting.
Well, I'm getting the hang of it. Simple scripts, not like crazy amount of scripts. Uh, I don't want to do a population system. I mean, for what? I mean, if you have food, you have a dynamic unit cap. I mean, why? I know
Yeah,
people love.
that's as close to a population system as I can see it being for the engine at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a population system left over from Napoleon Empire. So who knows? Maybe I could use it, but I still have to see how everything goes.
And that's also going to be more a afterthought.
Yeah, I think so. I just concentrate on the food script, and yeah, the summer and winter dress. I'm thinking maybe to let the player decide. Maybe, who knows, with a dilemma, um, to
Like
choose between. I don't know.
maybe that costs per unit.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe a cost that they have to pay for it. It's an idea. I don't know yet.
Like that, for example, you get a pop-up and per unit that you have to pay like 100 gold for their winter equipment.
Yeah, it's an idea because you could use heat and cold in a battle, that it actually affects
Yeah,
morale.
yeah, I've seen that multiple times using winter and summer dress units throughout the campaign testing. That summer or winter dress units at certain at of course during winter or summer get nice debuffs.
I suppose what you also could do, this is like an idea, you can make it like an implementation after like one turn, and if you obviously it happens after, say you click on it, but if you're attacked within that turn, your units have a mix of either winter dress and summer dress.
That's going to be more on if that's actually possible via scripting.
I actually want to keep it simple.
Let's just get the first system in and then start experimenting.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, my goal is or to do it automatically if it doesn't work, because you need to do it for the AI also. But you can actually, the way I did it also for the AI and whatsoever, you can script it that you can make it AI specific and human specific. So in theory, a lot of stuff are possible.
For example, if it would ever cost something that the AI doesn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think the AI just will be automatically. I mean, the AI is just stupid. They cannot make decisions.
The less decisions the AI has to make, the better.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, I do that also for the battle, because the campaign system is more made for the AI than actually for the human player. For the multiplayer mod that I want to create, then it will be really totally different stats.
Well, that's a far off idea at this point.
Yeah, so yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm busy now to add new horses, because I think personally that the horses are a bit too big for the game. I don't know if you have noticed it, but for me personally, they're pretty big.
They are a bit oversized.
Yeah, they are a bit big.
Yeah, I'm just going to import the ones from Napoleon Total War to the game.
If that works, then it works.
Yep. So yeah, that's actually what I want to do. So hopefully maybe I can add some other animals, but yeah, of course, adding custom animation takes a while. So
Like you have mentioned that you do want camels because, well, North Africa is going to be a thing.
yeah, exactly. For the French invasion of Algeria, then there are camels. So
Are you going to make some specific colonial units for or pay it, obviously French North African dress? It's obviously, it's like a bit of again, like a script, when you get into North Africa, your uniforms kind of change a tiny bit. I don't know, obviously. I think that's probably be more specific and a bit more, picky. But is that going to be like a type of thing you're thinking about doing?
it's going to be difficult. I was thinking more about you can only recruit colonial units into North Africa. That's it. You could still recruit from Europe normal units, but in North
So
Africa, I
you
just
would
want
have
to.
a area of recruitment system similar to Rome too.
Yeah, correct. Like that, not more because it's going to be otherwise too difficult with so many scripts. Summer dress, winter dress, colonial dress. It's going to be a mess. At least in
And
my eyes.
it is something that is in Empire, so I think it shouldn't be that difficult to implement if some of the stuff carries over from Empire.
Well, I think as a player, you will have no other choice because if you send European troops to Northern Africa, um, you can conquer a region, but you can't keep up with that army. You need to recruit new units, and already the supply line or the speed of the way you travel is much smaller in the Carlist Wars than in a normal game.
So you'd want cheaper locally recruited units to actually do garrison.
Yeah, and just colonial units like a colonial line infantry, something like this.
Like for that you could maybe like make them a bit cheaper but lesser on stats.
Yeah, or yeah, correct.
And
As
obviously,
they'd just be there to do garrison duty.
and I think it'd be interesting if you're playing Spanish, and obviously, say it's the one of the factions, the ones which hold the majority of the territory, and you need reinforcements. And say you have some territory in North Africa, because I believe the Spanish had a tiny bit of land in North Africa. Say if you built like a small army, and obviously you bring them over, I think it'd be like a nice feature, seeing North African troops fighting the Spanish in Spain.
Yeah, possible.
That
Correct.
would be a thing if you actually managed to hold on to a port.
Yeah, correct. Because you can only
So that's really hard.
yeah, you can only embark and disembark at a port area, port region.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes more sense. I mean, you cannot just land everywhere you want.
So you'd either have to build a big enough army to be able to land and take the region the port is connected to, or hold on to a port in the first place.
Oh yeah, a region with a port.
So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to look at.
Yeah, that's why Carlist Wars first because it's mostly land based.
Well, yeah, it is also like mostly land.
Yeah, correct. So
It's way more land than Japan.
yeah, that's true. And I'm even going to expand the map after to the east, so to have Italy and Libya.
The see compared to like India and things like that, the Carlist War is more, it's actual battles compared to like Indian Mutiny, where it's a lot of it's just sieges and things like that, and there's only like 7 big battles.
It was everything: sieges, battles, but mostly battles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's more gameplay friendly Carlist War compared to like the Indian Mutiny and stuff.
Yeah, correct.
Like stuff like that could like still happen, of course, to you, but that's just how you play the campaign.
Yeah, correct.
Like at this point, most of the rebellions around Spain have recruited decently sized armies for themselves, so I am going to have to siege them out if I want to make any progress on the map. But the first, like, at least the first 3 years were just a lot of just small field battles.
Yeah, and I think it's especially for maintaining order in your realm. I think it's mostly you will actually in the beginning you will not conquer that much, so it's more of a slower pace campaign.
You're going to have to start playing a lot taller than you're used to in a Total War game.
Especially when you play Spain.
Certainly, if you play Spain.
In Spain, you lose all of your territories.
Like
Except
outside of Madrid, you practically have nothing left.
Yeah, correct. So
yeah, and it's up to you to sell your land back.
Yeah, correct.
In before either the Carlists, before the Carlists start coming out of the mountains, or the British start building up, or maybe even the Portuguese Civil War may be over and they start to look at your stuff.
Yeah, it will be interesting.
That's not even considering the French, who are going to have the best starting position in the mod.
And the best army, I guess, also.
I'd say mostly the best army because they have the money to build it.
Yeah, because the most territories, yeah. But they also have to be careful for rebellion.
They still have to be careful for rebellion, but it's not as hard as, for example, any other faction.
Yeah,
as you do have that large, stable trading base already, which you can, right from the start trading with the Carlists.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which is going to instantly solve your money problem. As you do start off with a couple of iron, at least 2 iron mines, I think, and then either a silver or gold, I can't remember.
Well, what we
it was a silver mine.
Also forgot to tell was also that every building now needs resources before they can build. Actually,
yeah.
So it's very heavily resource based game.
So as the UK, you might be tempted to, from Gibraltar, go Cadiz and then Seville, but if you veer off and take Malaga instead, you can actually build stuff because that has a wood resource.
Yeah, you need wood especially and stone. I mean, brick. So that helps you to, because wood you need for the early tier buildings, but brick you need more for the later tier buildings. And the ships will be the same. You will probably need wood for the earlier ships,
and then iron for the later tier.
And copper, yeah. So it will be very heavily resource based game.
Which honestly I really don't mind.
Well, it depends.
It just puts your focus somewhere else other than just gobbling up the map.
Yeah, you want to win, but you need resources. Otherwise, you just can't win. You're kind of stuck.
Which honestly is something that Total War really has lacked up to this point.
Well, they tried with Troy, right? Adding a resource system.
Honestly, that was the best part of Troy. Next to the diplomacy system where you could actually borrow those resources.
It's actually cool, yeah. Yeah, you can buy them. Yeah.
Those were the main innovations that they should really keep.
Yeah, those ones, yeah, they're really important, I think.
You can just trash the rest of Troy.
Yeah, I never played it, but that's what I saw in some reviews, so...
It's really not that good. They say the AI doesn't cheat, but the AI cheats like crazy.
Every Total War AI cheats. If you want to make it a challenging AI, you need to give it a lot of cheats.
They try to pull a marketing stunt of saying that the AI is now actually good at doing battles, so it doesn't need unit buffs anymore, but then the beta came out and the unit still got buffs on higher difficulties.
Yeah, I even give the AI a lot of buffs in the game, so to make it more challenging for the player. So yeah.
So definitely, if you're new, start off as France. If you want to have fun.
Yeah, that's my suggestion. If you want challenging, play Spain.
That's
I think the
Iron Man.
I think the easiest faction in Spain is going to probably be the Carlist to play as, but you're not going to have a lot of rebellions.
You already have a decent chunk of territory that's pretty well built up.
And it's pretty much loyal to you compared to the rest of Spain.
Like, the only thing as the Carlist is going to be to get as much land as possible before the French are starting to bear down your neck.
Unless you start, getting decent relations with the French and, pacifying them.
Yeah, or you can make some rebellions because you have some royalist regions, so that also maybe help.
Now, so far, I have been happy with the current alpha. Of course, with the problems that were mentioned now fixed in the upcoming one.
Yeah, I think I will wait until I will make a new alpha with the new cavalry. So there's no point of now giving it. So I would just will make new cavalry.
It's only like one little bug fix.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I had to change like the 4 heads of the new generals that I added because I'm trying to add as much as like real life units. I mean, I'm not the best modeler, but I'm trying. So, I mean, maybe you have noticed some famous ones.
Yeah,
dude,
that's why I tried
honest,
them, and the game just said nope.
No, dude, seriously, I think your modeling challenges the Regiments of the American Revolution mod. That was for Empire. Your modeling generally challenges that shit, so it's very good.
Yeah, for me, making heads is like the worst thing to do. It's really difficult, but I actually use a program to make it a bit more easier for me, but they're very high poly units, so I had to lower it down like by 75% to let the game run better without any crashes.
Like, using the regular generals that were already in game, it works fine with 60-80 units on screen. It really was just those high poly count units that somehow broke the engine.
Yeah, I think it has to do with memory. Too less memory, and then you get a CTD.
Yeah. Even though I've already implemented a hack to up it from 2 to 4 gigabytes.
Yeah, I have the fullest one, also 4 gigs, but it's really that sad that you only have like that amount. You really have to be very efficient in modeling.
Yeah.
That is why I made all the unit parts as low poly as I could without losing too much detail.
And honestly, even with them being that low poly, they're still great detail.
Yeah, they're much lower, also lower resolution texture maps. So,
which honestly you don't really notice because you're never that zoomed into them.
No, I think now with the linear tactics, you'll be so busy just firing the whole time.
And, well, the really good smoke effects also just obscure all of it.
Yeah, they're pretty good, right?
Yeah. They have been good ever since the first alpha I tested.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Actually, this is just vanilla smoke, you know?
It's vanilla smoke, but there's more of it.
Yeah, correct.
Is it? I don't know if you don't know. I've just been looking on, obviously, my computer. And apparently, there was the British Auxiliary Legion sent to Spain during the First Carlist War, which was sent to support Queen Isabella II. Don't know if you didn't know that. Just saying, that could be like a possible thing you could probably put in. The British, some British units with the Spanish. Well,
Um, I don't know if you have noticed, if you ever played the British and you go into the game, you will notice there will be a specific name for a British general. Then you will see which general was leading that auxiliary unit.
I didn't know that.
Same for the French.
Is it O'Connell Maurice Charles?
Yeah, I think that's for the French, right?
No, that's my British general.
I don't know which one it was again. He was leading the auxiliary troops.
No, wait. That's my other guy. The Lassie Evans George is my faction leader.
Yeah, that's the one.
Apparently,
Can
just
replace
saying
that
off
one?
uniforms based, for the British Auxiliary Legion, apparently they wore caps instead of the big, big hardy hats. Apparently they wore caps, the artillery, same as some of. I don't know if you didn't know, same as some of the infantry. From what I'm looking at here, they wore caps. It was a mix of caps and I think depending on the regiments, they wore either caps or the big tall hats.
One question I do have is, how do you get any of the specialist resources that you need to upgrade the cottage industry? It's like silk, spices, tobacco, cotton.
Sorry, what was the question?
How do you get the specialty resources you need to upgrade your industrial buildings?
You have to build a certain trade port to have it.
Okay. And I am going to start dumping money into my trading ports.
Yeah, this is where it's the same system bit as Scramble, where you can trade with
Okay.
same
Good
thing
to know.
with North Europe, with the Americas, and I think the Orient, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, of course, some parts, some resources will go away from that trade port because if I'm in a certain area where it was pretty famous in that area, like spices, maybe, I don't know whatsoever, then those will be just added in that region.
No, that's good. I just wanted to know it was the same system as in Scramble.
Yeah, same system.
Okay, then
Yeah,
well,
I have to leave.
any closing remarks?
Well, be patient and don't be annoying.
Especially be patient.
Well, I've just been sitting here playing it, and playing as the British versus the French, and the French have stood in line except for 4 or 5 of them, which have clumped up in a forest. I've never seen them clump up in a forest.
Yeah, AI.
That just happens some when I was testing like the 30, 40 unit per side battles. The formation would be too long for the map, so they would clump up at the sides.
Well, this is just one of every unit, just so I could see their uniforms, but the French didn't move at all, which took me by surprise. You know,
Were you in
what?
Were you in defense?
No, I was probably attacking, but still, it's a bit odd. Usually, the AI in custom battle will at least move forward a little bit. They didn't move at all until
And the AI is a
I
lot
struck
more
them with the cavalry.
defensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
if you're attacking, they will mostly be waiting for you.
Oh yeah, but in vanilla they usually would come up just a little bit, if not, if not just sit back. But this time they just sat there and didn't move until I sent my cavalry in to do something,
Yeah,
or
correct.
sent my skirmishers forward to get them to start moving, and that's when they clumped up in the set of trees.
Maybe if you try to use artillery, it's a possibility.
Oh, I didn't bring any artillery, so that's probably.
That's
I
fine.
don't think UK has artillery at the moment.
Yeah, I'm changing, the entire projectile system, so
Like
Yeah,
it's only like I think it's Kingdom of France which has artillery at the moment.
yeah, but no, the July Monarchy has it as well. But,
Yeah.
the July Monarchy, yeah, correct.
But the thing is, I've been sitting here the whole time you guys were talking away. I've been sitting here watching a firefight, and nothing's really been happening. It's taking about 15 minutes to kill 2 units. And that was without
that's
the
why
buck and ball.
flanking is going to be a big thing.
Yeah,
especially early on, to get close enough to use that buck and ball to actually start working away at units.
The thing is, I've got basically point blank, and I used buck and ball, and I was still causing barely any casualties.
Are you in a
doing
forest?
this in a forest?
No, I'm in the open field, and so are they.
That's a strange one.
Every time with Merlin, it's so weird.
How do you find all these things?
I have no idea how
units
every
that
time
way.
with Merlin.
I don't know. Don't just go ahead and say it's my fault.
It's your fault, Merlin. God's sake.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to be ending it on that note, as we've already been going for an hour and 40 minutes almost.
No, the AI does really stupid stuff sometimes, you know. And
like Merlin originally threatening to leave halfway, and then he's staying here right up till the end.
I actually didn't realize you were recording anything.
Oh, really? But
I've been recording for an hour 40.
Yeah, but you have now tested it at least a couple of times now, right?
This is the first time I've had a chance to play it.
But at least they're in a linear fashion.
Oh yeah, they're fighting in a linear fashion until I messed up their formation by sending cavalry back. But
yeah,
that was my fault. But they stood in line and they waited for me.
At least that's an achievement by itself.
Well,
by the standards of the Shogun 2 AI, that's a miracle.
To be fair, there's 6 units that are sitting clumped up in a forest, so shooting them out is going to be an impossibility.
Send the cavalry to take them out.
I've been using my cavalry to take out their cavalry because, like we said earlier, the infantry do not seem to have cavalry sync kills enabled. I think that's just base Shogun, because I've seen it in base Shogun all the time. Infantry just seem to die. Even in my little mod with the Swedes, testing it, my infantry are being slaughtered by cavalry because they just were not, doing sync kills. They were dodging and all that, but that was about it. They took other cavalry before, or shooting at the cavalry to take them on. For some reason, this game just does not seem to have cavalry sync kills with infantry.
Well, actually, I have seen it always. It's so strange. I always see them like stuck in their bayonet in the horse.
I've never seen it.
Okay, it could be. But don't worry, I'm going to make a very nice square formation with the system from Napoleon, your favorite one.
Well, where the cavalry just stop right in front of the damn thing?
Hey,
you
gotta choose, Merlin. You gotta choose.
No, that's a broken, a completely broken mechanic.
I'm going to try to fix it to let them pass the square formation and not just stop and drop. At least go around. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, yeah, that's where we're going to be ending it off. I'll thank everyone for, that's still listening at this point, for watching or listening through the entire thing. And hopefully we're going to be a bit quicker on making a third episode instead of taking literal months.
Yeah, maybe, because I think we will have weekly new tests, even some days after each other.
Which I'm looking forward to.
I'm working now. I have time, so a lot again, so I can do it now daily. But that will be good for the testers and for the community. And actually, one last question for Sam. Is he there still?
Yeah, I'm still.
So you're a mother on the Zulu mod or something, no?
Yeah, so I'm basically the head dev. Basically I'm the head guy, for the hardcore Zulu mod for Napoleon.
So you're the one of the hardcore Zulu mod, right?
Yep.
You were the one asking me for a campaign map in Africa, right?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh yeah, I knew it. Was like there was someone that was asking me for a campaign in Africa or something. I was like, with the Zulu mod. Don't remember. So yeah, now I remember. And because I get so many PMs from people requiring some stuff and whatsoever, and then I just completely forget about it.
Yeah, Napoleon's a bit of a bitch to mod. Let's put it that way.
Shogun
Honestly,
2,
Shogun 2 is worse.
yes
If you
and
can
no.
believe that.
I do not completely agree, but yes and no. It's true.
It depends on what you want to do.
The problem is you have to do too much converting. That's the main issue with Shogun 2. So there is not one program where you can convert directly and it's finished. No, you need one program, another program, another program. So it takes a bit longer. That's the issue with Shogun I have. And I think Merlin can speak by experience also, I guess.
Yeah, it's a pain. Trust us. If you think Napoleon's bad, and I've modded Napoleon myself, it is a cakewalk in comparison.
I mean, luckily, development for this, should start speeding up for what I'm doing. I mean, I know this guy who's quite good at making models and skins, so I'm gonna get onto that guy to make some more stuff. I mean, yeah, that should be up and rolling soon, and then hopefully once that's done, I can port it over to Shogun 2 and let you guys use some of it. Well, use it or whatever.
That would certainly be nice. But,
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the ball war and everything done at the moment. At least the first one. I just need to get some ball models in game and some more precision. Then jobs to go.
Okay, guys, I have to leave.
Yeah, I'm also going to be ending the recording right here.
Okay, thanks for everything, and maybe let's do it again, eh? So let's not wait for months again.
Yeah. This is going to be a lot more regular. Hopefully at least once a month.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks guys everyone for coming, for the questions. See you then, bye bye.
Yep.